The True Story of Christian the Lion. Today's story comes from Great Britain and Africa. Let's see why those two places are connected. Once upon a time, not very long ago, there was a lion named Christian who lived in a furniture store in London. The store belonged to his human friends, John and Ace. This sounds like a fairy tale, doesn't it? But it's not. This is a true story about a lion that had a very special friendship with the people who raised him. So you're probably wondering how John and Ace met Christian and how they came to have a lion living in their furniture store. After all, you can't just go into a pet store and buy a lion, can you? A rabbit, maybe, or a cat, or even a dog. But surely not a lion. Well, it's true that today you can't just buy a lion in a pet store, but 50 years ago, in London, you could do just that in a department store called Harrods. Harrods was famous for being the place where you could buy anything, and that included exotic pets. One day, while John and Ace were shopping in Harrods, they saw Christian, a lion cub for sale, and they thought to themselves, wouldn't it be so much fun to have a pet lion? He was only little, and he had such soft paws, just like a kitten. So Christian came to live with them in their apartment, and soon he became the best pet they had ever had. He was playful and fun, and he liked to join in with whatever they were doing. As he got bigger, he used to hug them by standing on his hind legs and putting his paws on their shoulders. John and Ace took him to the park every day for exercise. He needs to run around outside, they said. However, they worried that he'd be lonely while they were at work all day. So they took Christian to work with them at their furniture store, Sophisticat, where he lay on a couch in the store window and welcomed all the customers. But there's a reason why people don't usually keep lions as pets. Christian was growing bigger and bigger and eating more and more every day. Feeding him was also getting very expensive. Soon he was too big to live in the apartment with John and Ace, and had to stay in the basement at the store. The two men realized that they would have to find a better home for their friend. But what could they do with him? There were no antelopes or zebras for him to hunt in London, and they didn't know if he would be able to survive in the wild. Then, one day, two actors came into the store. They had just finished making a movie about lion conservationists George and Joy Adamson in Africa. What do George and Joy do exactly? Asked John and Ace. Well, they work closely with orphaned lion cubs in Africa. They help them to learn to survive in the wild and protect them from hunters, said the actors. That's really interesting, said John. Maybe Christian could join George Adamson at his conservation park and learn to live as a wild lion. The actors agreed and offered to introduce John and Ace to George and Joy. John and Ace were sad about sending their friend so far away, but they knew that Africa was a better place for a full-grown lion to live than a London store. They arranged to meet George Adamson in Kenya, and they took Christian with them. When they met, Adamson agreed with them that Christian would live more happily in Kenya. So, the men said their goodbye to their friend the lion and went back to their store in London. Adamson spent the next year working with Christian and introducing him to other lions. He hoped that they would join together and form a pride, a group of lions who live and hunt together, which would be able to survive in the wild. And so it happened. Before long, Christian was hunting for himself and was getting along well with the other lions. But John and Ace did not forget their friend. They decided to go back to Africa to visit Christian. Adamson warned them that Christian might not remember them. He might not even be in the area. He's been living in the wild with 2 lionesses and hasn't been back to camp for some time, warned Adamson. But on the day when John and Ace arrived, Christian was waiting for them, and he was obviously very pleased with himself. He had brought his new family to meet them, and as soon as he saw John and Ace, he came running over and greeted them with one of his special hugs. The lionesses and the cubs were more shy, but they watched patiently while Christian played with his old friends all evening. John and Ace returned to London, happy that their old friend had found himself a family and learned to live a life of his own in the wild.